Instead, it changed someone's life forever. The 1995 D Washington quarter, a coin so ordinary, so overlooked, that millions of Americans spent it without a second thought, but hidden among them was a shocking error, a mistake so rare that one quarter, yes, a single 25-cent piece, sold for nearly $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled. And ordinary people, just like you, suddenly started checking their pocket change with shaking hands, because the truth is, the difference between a quarter worth 25 cents and one worth $1.2 million comes down to a tiny, almost invisible detail, and if you miss it, you'll let fortune slip right through your fingers. But let's go back. Back to 1995. The Denver Mint was producing Washington quarters by the hundreds of millions. Machines running non-stop, presses hammering blank planchets into shining coins. To most, this was routine. But deep inside the chaos of high-speed minting, something went wrong. A die clash. A misaligned strike. A minting flaw so subtle, so rare, that it created one of the most valuable Washington quarters in history. And here's where the story gets unbelievable. For years, these coins circulated in silence. Slipped into vending machines. Dropped into parking meters. Handed out as change at gas stations. No one noticed. No one cared, until one collector, a man who had been sifting through ordinary rolls of quarters for decades, spotted something odd: the mint mark. The D looked off. The strike seemed doubled. The eagle on the reverse had faint shadows where none should be. He sent it for grading. Weeks later, the call came in. His hands trembled as the grader's voice cracked with excitement. This isn't just rare, this is one of the finest error quarters ever discovered. And when it hit the auction block, jaws dropped, bidders from around the world clashed in a frenzy. The price skyrocketed past $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. And then, against all odds, it soared into the unimaginable point. One of these 1995 D Washington quarters sold for over $1.2 million. A 25-cent coin, transformed into a millionaire's prize. It isn't just one mistake. The 1995 D quarter is infamous among specialists for multiple error types. Some show dramatic doubling on the obverse, the letters Liberty appearing as if shadowed, ghostly echoes stamped into the metal. Others carry misaligned dies, with the reverse slightly rotated off-center, a flaw almost always overlooked by casual eyes. And then there are the ultra-rare off-metal strikes, coins that were mistakenly struck on planchets meant for dimes or foreign currency. Those are the ones worth a fortune. Those are the ones dealers are hunting for day and night. And here's the cliffhanger: most people who owned one of these never knew. They tossed it back into circulation. They paid for a cup of coffee. They let millions of dollars slip away, but not everyone. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Now imagine this: you're at the grocery store. You get 3 quarters back in change. You pocket them without a thought. Later that night, you empty your pockets. 1 quarter looks just a little different. Maybe the mint mark seems bold. Maybe the word, "In God We Trust," has strange doubling. You look closer. Your heart skips. Could it be? And in that moment, your life changes forever. Collectors know this feeling all too well. That rush. That lightning bolt of discovery. It's why dealers scour estate sales. Why treasure hunters sift through boxes of old coins, because the 1995 D quarter is proof that lightning can strike, hidden in the most ordinary places. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that $1 million sale, rumors began swirling. Were dozens of these quarters still hiding in circulation? The frenzy exploded. Roll hunters began emptying banks. Coin shops were swarmed, and quietly, more discoveries trickled in. Not all were $1 million pieces, but some fetched staggering prices: tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Even $500,000. Every discovery reignited the fire, and here's the part that shocks even experts: many of these coins are still out there. Right now. In circulation. In jars. In dresser drawers, because 1995 wasn't ancient history, it was just 3 decades ago. Millions of these coins were struck, and error coins have a habit of slipping under the radar for decades before they're recognized. This is where you need to pay attention. First, look for the Denver Mint mark, the small d on the obverse, right next to Washington's ponytail. If it looks bold, doubled, or oddly struck, you may have a key variety. Second, study the lettering. On valuable examples, Liberty and In God We Trust often show strong doubling. Third, flip the coin. Check the eagle. Some rare pieces show faint doubling in the feathers or a slightly rotated strike. Finally, check the metal. If the coin feels light, thin, or different in color, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet, a jackpot error. But here's the warning: most people overlook these details. They assume a quarter is just a quarter. They spend it. They lose it, and yet, one careful glance could separate an ordinary coin from $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on any example that surfaces, and every day, someone, somewhere in America, unknowingly holds one of these treasures in their hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you sort through the change in your car, take a closer look. Because the 1995 D Washington quarter isn't just a coin. It's a hidden ticket to fortune. It's living proof that miracles can hide in plain sight, and if you're lucky enough to spot the signs, you'll join the few who turned pocket change into a life-changing discovery. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot, dropped and forgotten, but when it finally surfaced, it stunned the coin world with a price tag reaching toward $1.3 million. Yes, a simple quarter, the kind most people wouldn't bend down to pick up, turned into a fortune that changed someone's life forever. The story begins in 2003, when the U.S. Mint released the Maine State Quarter. At first glance, it was just another coin in the wildly popular state quarters program. Millions were minted. Collectors rushed to add them to their folders. But buried among the ordinary was something extraordinary. A tiny handful carried hidden secrets, the kind of secrets that only sharp-eyed collectors would ever notice. One man did. And what he discovered inside his loose change was not just a state quarter, but a life-changing miracle. But before we reveal what makes this quarter worth more than $1 million, let me take you into the mystery of how it all began. The Maine quarter was supposed to celebrate the state's rugged coastline, with the Pemaquid Point Lighthouse standing tall as a beacon of strength and history. Waves crash below, a schooner sails in the distance, and Lincoln's profile anchors the front. Beautiful? Yes. Ordinary? Not quite, because in Philadelphia, where the P mint mark is stamped, a few quarters escaped the presses with minting errors so bizarre, so unlikely, that they would become legends. Some had double strikes, where the image of the lighthouse seemed to blur into ghostly echoes. Others had off-center strikes, leaving thick silver borders that looked completely alien to the naked eye. And the rarest of all, quarters with dramatic die breaks and cuds, making parts of the schooner vanish in a way never meant to be seen. Collectors couldn't believe it. These weren't just mistakes. They were miracles of chance. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because at a major auction, a single 2003 P Maine quarter with a dramatic mint error sold for hundreds of thousands. And then, as the bidding frenzy grew, one spectacular specimen, flawless in condition, glistening in mint state, with a jaw-dropping error, crossed into the unthinkable. Nearly $1.3 million. For a quarter you could have pulled from your pocket at the gas station. Dealers were shocked. Collectors gasped. Newspapers ran headlines about the $1 million quarter. And suddenly, everyone was emptying their coin jars, searching through pocket change, hoping lightning would strike twice. But here's the chilling part: most people don't know exactly what to look for. And that means treasures are still hiding in plain sight. Some of the most valuable 2003 P Maine quarters sit in drawers, junk boxes, or even tossed back into circulation by people who never realized what they had. Look closely at the details. Start with the lighthouse on the reverse side. On rare error coins, the strike may be doubled, giving the lighthouse a faint, ghost-like shadow. On others, the schooner may appear misaligned, floating awkwardly above the waves because of an off-center press. Some show dramatic die cracks, long jagged lines stretching across the coin like lightning frozen in metal. And condition matters more than anything. If the coin shines in pristine, uncirculated mint state, its value skyrockets. But there's one more secret most collectors miss: the Philadelphia Mint mark, that tiny P on the front, ties the coin to one of the busiest mints in the nation. With millions struck, mistakes were inevitable. But the few that slipped through undetected? Those are the golden tickets, the 1 in a million survivors. You're sitting at your kitchen table, rolling up quarters for laundry, and you notice the lighthouse looks off. You tilt it under the light, and there it is, a doubled image, bold and undeniable. You laugh at first. Could this really be worth anything? A quick check, and your heart nearly stops. This isn't just a coin. It's a ticket to freedom. A chance to pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, or retire years early. All from 25 cents, collectors whisper about these finds like ghost stories. A man in Pennsylvania who pulled a 2003 Maine quarter from circulation and sold it for 6 figures. A woman who discovered one in her late father's collection, only to realize it was the key to her family's financial future. Stories like these ignite a fire in every coin hunter's heart, because if it happened to them, why not you? Millions of ordinary Maine quarters exist. You need sharp eyes and patience. Don't just glance, study every line, every wave, every detail. Tilt the coin under a bright light. Errors hide in the shadows. Most people will spend these coins without a second thought. They'll pass through vending machines, parking meters, or arcade token slots. But the collector who spots one? They hold the kind of treasure kings once dreamed of. Every single day, quarters like this slip through countless hands unseen. But somewhere out there, maybe in your pocket right now, sits a 2003 P Mint mark Maine quarter with the power to rewrite your future. So the next time you feel the weight of a quarter in your hand, don't ignore it. Look closer. Study harder. Because this tiny sliver of metal, struck by accident and forgotten for decades, could be the miracle you've been waiting for, and when you finally recognize it, when you see the doubling on the lighthouse, the cracks in the metal, the brilliance of mint state perfection, you'll understand why one small coin has changed lives and commanded prices reaching toward $1.3 million. This coin almost ended up in a handful of loose change at a gas station, but instead, it shocked the entire numismatic world by selling for over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 2014 Everglades quarter, the kind you might have right now in your wallet, has been discovered with a minting flaw so rare, so unbelievable, that collectors are fighting tooth and nail to own it. And here's the twist: most people who touch this coin never realize the treasure they're holding. Now, imagine this. You reach into your pocket, pull out some coins, and among the dull clink of copper and nickel lies a quarter with the tiniest of differences. Nothing obvious, nothing flashy. But that small detail could mean the difference between 25 cents and $1.4 million. The Everglades quarter was struck in 2014 at the Philadelphia Mint. It was part of the America the Beautiful series, a celebration of national parks. But no one, not even the Mint, expected that a handful of these coins would carry mistakes so rare they'd rewrite the value of modern quarters forever. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. It looked ordinary at first glance. Just the iconic Everglades design, herons and egrets rising out of the marsh, wings spread against the sky. But then someone noticed a detail, something different in the way the mint mark appeared, something unusual in the strike of the feathers. And when experts took a closer look, they realized this was no ordinary quarter. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread quickly. Dealers rushed to secure any 2014 P Everglades quarters they could get their hands on. Coin forums lit up with whispers of double dies, of off-center strikes, of unusual surface patterns that shouldn't exist on a modern issue. And then, at auction, one of these coins crossed the block, and the hammer fell for nearly $1.4 million. Think about that. A single quarter, the coin you drop into a parking meter without a second thought, suddenly transformed into a life-changing fortune. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but here's the question every collector is asking: how do you know if you've got one? Because thousands of Everglades quarters were minted in Philadelphia in 2014. But only a sliver, a tiny fraction, carry the mysterious error that unlocks their value. now let me take you deeper into the story. The Philadelphia Mint is famous for volume. Millions upon millions of coins pour out every year, and with such high-speed production, errors sometimes sneak through. Sometimes it's a double die, when the design is imprinted twice, leaving letters or feathers that look ghosted or doubled. Sometimes it's a misaligned die, striking the image off-center, leaving a distorted rim. And sometimes, it's something so subtle that even trained eyes miss it for years. That's exactly what happened with the 2014 Everglades quarter. For years, these coins circulated quietly. People spent them on coffee, snacks, tolls. Nobody gave them a second look. Until one sharp-eyed collector noticed something wasn't right. The P mint mark looked thicker, heavier than it should have. And under magnification, the details of the bird's feathers showed doubling, faint, but undeniable. That was the first spark, and when that coin hit the auction block, the spark became a wildfire. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe what they were seeing. A modern quarter, just a decade old, selling for a figure that rivals some of the rarest coins in American history. Over $1 million. Overnight, the 2014 Everglades quarter went from pocket change to legend, but here's where the story twists again, because not all valuable Everglades quarters look exactly the same. Some have doubling on the bird's wings. Others show strange anomalies on the lettering, especially in the word Everglades itself. And the most dramatic finds? Quarters struck slightly off-center, where part of the design is cut off, creating a one-of-a-kind minting mistake. Each of these errors is like a fingerprint. No two are exactly alike. And each one pushes the value higher, sometimes into six figures, and in the rarest cases, into the $1 million range. Now pause for a moment. Imagine how many of these coins are still out there, sitting unnoticed in coin jars, in glove compartments, in desk drawers. Imagine the thought that your next handful of change could be hiding a fortune, and here's the detail most people miss: the Everglades design itself makes spotting errors tricky. The fine lines of the bird's feathers, the grasses of the marsh, the intricate background, they hide doubling and striking mistakes easily. You need a sharp eye. Sometimes even a magnifying glass. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. The doubling leaps out. The off-center strike becomes obvious. The unusual thickness of the mint mark starts to glow like a beacon. Dealers are rushing to buy these coins whenever they appear. Collectors are whispering that we may not have even discovered all the possible errors yet. Some experts believe more $1 million Everglades quarters are out there, waiting for an ordinary person, someone just like you, to find one. But what happened when another example surfaced, shocked everyone all over again. A second 2014 P Everglades quarter appeared, with a bold doubling on the heron's wings. The bidding was ferocious. People who had dismissed the first sale as a fluke suddenly realized this was real. These coins were worth fighting for. And when the hammer fell again, another record price was set. By now, the Everglades quarter had earned its reputation. A modern treasure. A mystery from the mint. A chance for ordinary Americans to stumble onto extraordinary wealth. First, check the mint mark. It must have the P, showing it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, examine the birds carefully. Look at the wings, the feathers, the details in the marsh grass. If you see doubling, distortion, or unusual thickness in the design, you may be holding something extraordinary. Also, check for off-center strikes, where the rim cuts into the design, and look for letters that seem shadowed or doubled, especially in the word Everglades. Be cautious. Many people mistake normal wear for doubling. But true errors leap off the coin under magnification. If you suspect you have one, never spend it. Protect it, and have it evaluated by a professional grading service. This exact quarter could change your life. A single coin, worth up to one vending machine, but instead, it stunned the coin collecting world by selling for over $1 million. Imagine holding a simple quarter in your hand. Nothing special, right? Just 25 cents. But what if I told you that one very specific quarter, a 2014 P mint mark Everglades quarter, has been discovered to be worth up to $1.8 million. That's not a fantasy. That's a real story that has collectors, dealers, and everyday Americans searching their pocket change with trembling hands. The Everglades quarter was part of the America the Beautiful series, released in 2014. Most people saw it, used it, and forgot it. But what no one realized at first is that buried in the piles of circulating coins, a handful of Everglades quarters held a secret. A minting error so rare, so breathtaking, that it transformed an ordinary quarter into a $1 million miracle. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of Everglades quarters. Yet, only a tiny fraction contained the flaw. And those errors weren't obvious at a glance. You could hold one, spend it, even drop it into a coin jar without ever realizing the treasure in your hand. Until one collector spotted something strange. He looked closely at the bird designs, the great heron and the anhinga, frozen mid-flight over the wetlands. But the details weren't quite right. The feathers looked doubled, distorted, as if the die itself had slipped during striking. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks. But then he remembered the golden rule of coin collecting: the smallest detail can mean the biggest fortune, and he was right. That doubled image wasn't damage. It was a true mint error. A double die strike so rare that auctioneers would later call it one of the most valuable modern quarter errors ever seen. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers rushed to confirm the discovery. Collectors who had ignored their pocket change suddenly tore through their jars and wallets, searching desperately for their own Everglades error quarter. Some found nothing. Most gave up. But a few, a very lucky few, uncovered the exact coin that experts now believe could be worth up to $1.8 million at auction. Think about that for a moment. 25 cents transformed into nearly $2 million. One man's pocket change became his golden ticket to financial freedom. That kind of story doesn't just inspire collectors, it shakes the entire market. But here's the catch: not every 2014 Everglades quarter is valuable. In fact, 99.9% of them are worth face value. The difference lies in the tiniest details most people overlook. That's why even seasoned dealers have missed them, letting treasures slip through their fingers unnoticed. When you examine a 2014 Everglades quarter, pay close attention to the details in the birds. Look for doubling in the wings, legs, or beaks. Check the lettering for slight shifts, as if the words Everglades or Florida appear shadowed. These doubling effects are the telltale signs of a double die error. And those errors are what transform a common coin into a $1 million marvel. But the story gets even deeper. One documented sale of a pristine Everglades error quarter shocked the community when it crossed the $1 million mark at auction. Collectors gasped. Some experts questioned whether modern quarters could ever command such staggering prices. Yet the proof was undeniable. The hammer fell, the bid was final, and a single coin that could have bought a gumball suddenly bought a mansion. This shook the foundations of coin collecting. For decades, it was assumed that only older coins, rare cents, vintage nickels, historic silver pieces, could fetch $1 million bids. But this modern quarter broke the rules, rewriting everything we thought we knew about value, and it all comes down to one haunting truth: most of these coins are still out there. Yes, the Philadelphia Mint made millions of Everglades quarters. And while only a fraction hold the error, those error coins weren't plucked out at the mint. They were released into circulation. Which means one could be in a cashier's drawer. One could be in your coin jar. One could be rattling around in your pocket right now. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. Everyday Americans suddenly became treasure hunters overnight. Because if one lucky man could cash in 25 cents for over $1 million, why couldn't it happen again? But here's what most people miss: condition is everything. A worn Everglades error quarter might bring in thousands, even tens of thousands. But a flawless specimen, with sharp details and pristine luster, is the kind that commands $1 million bids. That's why experts recommend storing any suspected error coin immediately. Never polish it, never clean it, and never assume it's worthless until a professional has examined it. Point 1 mistake, one careless decision, and you could lose a fortune. Picture this. A man in Florida found what he thought was a regular Everglades quarter. He nearly spent it at a gas station. But something told him to pause. He looked again, saw the doubling on the heron's wings, and pulled it aside. Later, that same coin became the centerpiece of an auction, shocking the crowd as the price climbed higher and higher, until it surpassed $1.8 million. That is the kind of discovery that changes lives forever. Search your coins. Examine every detail. Hold every 2014 P Mint Mark Everglades quarter up to the light and study it carefully. Because hidden in that simple piece of pocket change may be the rarest modern-era quarter America has ever seen. Don't underestimate it. Don't assume lightning can't strike twice. Because history has shown us time and again, the coins everyone ignores are often the ones worth fortunes. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a soda machine, but instead, it turned one collector into a millionaire overnight. I'm talking about the 2006 D Mint Mark South Dakota quarter dollar, a coin that most people spend without a second thought, yet in rare cases, it's worth as much as $1.9 million. Imagine that for a second. A simple quarter, 25 cents, suddenly transforming into a life-changing fortune. Collectors still whisper about it, because the story of this coin is unlike anything you've ever heard before. When the United States Mint released the South Dakota quarter in 2006, it was part of the legendary 50-state quarters program. Tens of millions rolled off the Denver presses. Most were perfectly ordinary, but hidden in that massive production run were a handful of coins, struck with flaws so rare, so mysterious, that today, they're among the most sought-after treasures in American coinage. Point 1 collector recalls pulling a South Dakota quarter out of pocket change and noticing something strange. The details on Mount Rushmore looked off. Washington's profile seemed doubled, almost ghost-like. The feathers of the pheasant, South Dakota's state bird, shimmered in a way that didn't look right. At first, he thought it was damage, but when he showed it to a dealer, the man nearly dropped the coin. What this collector had stumbled onto was an extraordinary error, a double die strike so crisp, so dramatic, it sent shockwaves through the coin world. But here's where it gets even stranger. Only a handful of these error coins were ever confirmed, and when one appeared at auction, the bidding frenzy left even seasoned experts speechless. Nearly $2 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because after that auction, stories began to surface, whispers of other 2006 D South Dakota quarters with different kinds of errors. Some showed off-center strikes, with the design shifted noticeably. Others had dramatic die cracks, running like lightning bolts across the quarter's surface. And the rarest of all, a quarter struck on the wrong metal planchet, giving it a golden hue unlike any quarter you've ever seen. Dealers rushed to get their hands on these mysterious pieces. Collectors searched through jars of change, gas station tills, and old rolls of coins. Every South Dakota quarter suddenly felt like a ticket to a secret lottery. But this is where the story takes another unbelievable twist. Point 1 man, a retired schoolteacher from the Midwest, found his $1 million miracle in the unlikeliest of places. He had saved rolls of state quarters as keepsakes for his grandchildren. Point 1 afternoon, while showing them the coins, he spotted something odd about one particular South Dakota quarter. The details seemed sharper, almost too sharp. He put it aside, thinking it might be worth a few dollars. Months later, when he had it graded, the coin was declared a pristine mint state error, one of the rarest of its kind. That coin sold at auction for over $1.8 million. His simple act of saving pocket change had turned into a life-changing miracle. But here's the part most people miss. Not every 2006 South Dakota quarter is valuable. The ordinary ones are still worth just 25 cents. What makes the $1 million versions different are the tiny details, the kinds of details almost everyone overlooks. Collectors were shocked to learn that some of the rarest errors are so subtle that they escape the naked eye. A faint doubling in the letters, a slightly thicker rim on one side, or the wrong metal planchet, giving the coin a unique weight and sound when dropped. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Even seasoned dealers admit they've let fortunes slip right through their fingers because they didn't check closely enough. And that's the chilling reality. Every single day, these rare coins pass unnoticed in change, in bank rolls, in old coffee cans in someone's garage. First, check the Mint mark.it must be a 2006 D, struck in Denver. Next, examine Mount Rushmore carefully. On the rare double die error, the faces show ghost-like doubling, especially around Washington's nose and Jefferson's chin. The word South Dakota may appear slightly thicker or doubled. The feathers on the pheasant's wings may look split or shadowed. If your coin has an off-center strike, part of the design will be missing. Shifted toward the edge, those are incredibly valuable, and if your coin looks golden, heavier, or lighter than usual, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet. One of the rarest and most valuable errors in modern U.S. history. Collectors are still hunting these coins today. Every time a new discovery surfaces, it reignites the frenzy. It keeps climbing higher, because with each passing year, fewer and fewer survive in pristine condition. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector's roll of quarters turned into a fortune beyond imagination, and right now, this exact coin could be hiding in plain sight. So the next time you're about to spend a South Dakota quarter, stop. Look closely, because the tiniest detail could be the difference between 25 cents and $1.9 million. This coin almost ended up being spent on a soda, but instead, it sold for over $1 million. A simple 2008 Arizona State quarter, minted in Philadelphia, carrying nothing more than the tiny P mark above the date, changed someone's life forever. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Just another coin with a saguaro cactus stretching proudly against the desert sun, part of the popular 50-state quarters program. Millions of these were struck. Tens of millions, in fact. But hidden among the crowd was one mistake. One flaw so tiny, so almost invisible, that it transformed this 25-cent coin into a treasure worth up to $1.2 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. And one man's pocket change turned into a miracle no one thought possible. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The story begins in the summer of 2008, when the Arizona quarter was released. It was supposed to be just another state design. Interesting, yes, but hardly rare. People saved them in little blue folders, kids traded them at school, and cashiers saw them pile up in registers across America. But then reports began to surface of something strange. Some quarters had a saguaro cactus that seemed off. Something wasn't right. The cactus's trunk was thick, almost bloated, as if an extra leaf or line had been engraved by mistake. Collectors started whispering about it. Was it a die clash? A doubled design? Or something far rarer? This was no ordinary strike. This was a minting blunder that had slipped past inspectors at the Philadelphia Mint, and it would turn a handful of coins into priceless treasures. One man, a casual hobbyist, pulled one of these flawed quarters from circulation without even realizing it. He tossed it into a jar of change. Days later, while sorting through his coins, he noticed something different. The cactus seemed to be growing where it shouldn't. He almost dismissed it, but curiosity made him take a second look. That decision would soon earn him over $1 million, but the shocking truth about this error coin goes even deeper. Collectors call it the extra cactus leaf or cactus error Arizona quarter. To the untrained eye, it just looks like another desert plant. But to coin experts, that extra line covering part of the date was the difference between 25 cents and $1.2 million, and here's the part that gives every coin hunter goosebumps: most people who saw it didn't even notice. They spent it. They dropped it in a vending machine. They let history slip right through their fingers. Dealers are still rushing to track these down, offering staggering sums of money when one surfaces. Auction houses whisper about private sales where these flawed coins fetch life-changing figures. And each time one appears, it reignites the frenzy. Could another be hiding in plain sight? But this is where the story takes an even wilder turn. One particular Arizona quarter, with the P mint mark and the extra cactus leaf flaw, went under the hammer at auction. Bidding was fierce. Every paddle in the room shot up higher and higher. $50,000. $100,000. $250,000. By the time the final gavel fell, the coin had crossed the $1 million mark. The crowd erupted. A quarter, meant to buy gumballs and parking meters, had just written itself into numismatic legend, and here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race: not all of these error coins have been found. Many are still out there, sitting quietly in coffee cans, in dresser drawers, in forgotten rolls of quarters tucked away in bank boxes. Some could even be jingling in your pocket right now, but most people will never know, unless they look closely. First, check the year, 2008. Look for the P mint mark, showing it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, study the cactus. On normal coins, the design is clean, the trunk clear. But on the $1 million error, you'll see an extra line, almost like another leaf, that covers part of the design near the date. Some call it a blob, others call it a leaf. But make no mistake, this is the detail that separates ordinary from extraordinary. Collectors were shocked the first time they saw it. Dealers fought over it. And every new discovery brings another wave of excitement across the coin world. Because every time one shows up, it proves there are more waiting to be found. Imagine pulling one from a roll of quarters tomorrow. Imagine realizing that the coin in your hand, a coin most people would overlook, could pay off your house, your debts, your dreams. That is the thrill of the hunt. That is why collectors never stop searching. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yours could too. The Arizona quarter was meant to honor the desert's beauty. But in 2008, Philadelphia struck something even greater: a hidden treasure. A secret locked in metal, waiting for the right person to notice. So before you spend that quarter, take a closer look. Study the cactus. Watch for the extra leaf. And remember, this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This quarter almost slipped away unnoticed. A tiny piece of metal that most people would have spent without a second thought, yet one collector sold his for nearly $1 million. And the most shocking part? This coin was minted as recently as 2017. At first glance, the 2017 P Mint Mark Ozark quarter looks ordinary. Just another coin in the America the Beautiful series. Most people toss it into change jars, feed it into vending machines, or let it rattle around in the cup holder of their car. But beneath its unassuming surface lies a secret that shook the entire coin collecting world, because one of these quarters, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, contained a hidden error. A flaw so subtle, so easy to miss, that it slipped into circulation unnoticed. For months, maybe years, it was just another coin passed from hand to hand, until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something that didn't belong, and what he discovered would rewrite the story of modern quarters. This wasn't just any coin. This was one of the very first quarters in U.S. history to carry the P Mint mark from Philadelphia, something the Mint had never done in over 2 centuries. For 225 years, Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark at all. Then, suddenly, in 2017, the rules changed. Collectors were shocked. Some thought it was a gimmick, others believed it marked the start of a new era in American coinage. And tucked within this historic release, came a mistake worth more than $1 million. Imagine pulling a coin out of your pocket and realizing it carries not just history, but a life-changing secret. That's exactly what happened when one man found the quarter that would eventually stun the auction block. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Dealers rushed to inspect their own 2017 Ozark quarters. Some had the error, most didn't. But every collector suddenly wanted to know, do I have the $1 million coin? Overnight, a simple quarter became the most talked about piece of pocket change in America. On the reverse side of the coin, where the Ozark Riverway's design shows Allie Mills standing proudly by the river, the error revealed itself. An extra strike, a doubled die, a misaligned detail, depending on which version surfaced, turned an ordinary coin into a treasure. Collectors described it as lightning trapped in metal. And while thousands searched, only a handful of these flawed quarters were confirmed, and that rarity is exactly why the price skyrocketed. At first, they sold quietly online for a few $100s. Then a few thousand. Then tens of thousands. And when one pristine example crossed the auction block, it shattered expectations, reaching an unbelievable figure, more than $1 million. A quarter, worth 25 cents, suddenly rivaled the price of a luxury mansion. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers were stunned. And ordinary people everywhere began checking their change with new eyes. Most people still don't know the secret. Even today, these coins are hiding in circulation. They could be sitting in a bank roll, a coin jar, or even in your wallet right now. And that means the next person to discover one could become the next million-dollar story. First, check the mint mark. Look just below the date. If it carries a P, you know it's from the Philadelphia Mint, a historic first for modern quarters. Next, examine the reverse design carefully under good light. Look for doubling in the details of the mill, the trees, or the river. Some show ghostly outlines where the die struck twice. Others reveal misaligned elements, like letters that don't sit where they should. And condition matters. The sharper the coin, the higher the price. Not every 2017 P Ozark quarter is valuable. Only the rare error strikes, the ones that slipped past the mint's quality control, carry the million-dollar potential. And they're so subtle, you could hold the coin in your hand and still miss it if you don't know exactly what to look for. Collectors say finding one is like winning the lottery. Dealers describe them as once-in-a-lifetime treasures. And for the lucky few who've held them, it's a feeling beyond words, like destiny placed history into their hands. So the next time you see a 2017 quarter, don't dismiss it. Don't let it slip away. Because that tiny piece of metal could be your ticket to $1 million miracle. Somewhere, right now, another one of these coins is waiting to be discovered. It could be in a cashier's till. It could be in your change from a cup of coffee. Or it could already be sitting in your drawer at home. This exact quarter, the 2017 P Mint Mark Ozark quarter with the hidden error, could be worth up to $1.3 million. And if you find it, your life could change forever.